Ladies and gentlemen, it's my absolute pleasure to be speaking live in person with Callie Vinson here in Foresthill, California. Oh my God. Callie, how are you?
Amazing. It's just, I'm so grateful to be here and doing what we're doing here at training camp, and I'm exhausted, but it's like a great exhaustion.
So you're here with a 3-day training camp for Western States. Yesterday was day one, and you ran probably from Robinson Flats, and then today you started at Foresthill and ran to Rucky Chucky, and then tomorrow you're going to run down to Auburn, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yesterday we started at Robinson Flat. There was so much snow. We had snow for the first 6.5 miles. Then it became like the real Western States course. So the talk on the trail was, I wonder what the first 30 miles looks like if there was that much snow at Robinson Flat. But it was incredible. And yeah, yesterday was a 50K. Today was 18 miles. And tomorrow is kind of whatever you want it to be.
So I know the snow is a big deal right now. The area was just pummeled with historic snow levels this year, and that's a big concern. What was that like, having to run so many miles in the snow like that?
Yeah, I mean, it instantly brought me back to my Chicago days where you're forced to run on the snow for 3 or 4 months out of the year, but it was okay. My biggest concern was just because I haven't been training on snow, like your feet were just slipping all over the place. So there were times when my leg would slip out and I'm thinking, oh no, I'm going to pull like a groin muscle or something, or oh no, my stabilizer muscles are going to be even more sore after this. But it wasn't too bad. I mean, it made for such a unique and memorable experience, because how often do you get to run that section in the snow? And so not a lot of people can say probably that they've done that.
So you kind of got your way to Western States, not through the lottery, from what I understand. Can you tell us how you've made your way here to this magical experience?
Yes. So So I got my bib from GU and Rising Hearts. They have a sponsored bib, and they invited me right when I was about to sign up for another big, 200-mile race. And they invited me, and I was like, you know what? I might not ever get this opportunity again, and I know how hard it is to get into this race, and I was absolutely just overwhelmed and excited to take the opportunity to run it for Rising Hearts and GU.
So I wanted to, before we kind of get into Western States and how your training is going and kind of everything that's wrapped around that, I want to know more about Rising Hearts and why that's so important.
It's very important because of what they're doing, raising awareness and the voices of indigenous cultures and communities, and funding all these initiatives to, just help these communities all over the country. But it's also great to have Rising Hearts a part of Western States because of the history of Western States and the name that was originally a part of the Western States, just verbiage, and moving away from that and bringing in Rising Hearts to not really correct it, but just to, just kind of do right for what was done before, and also just help to elevate those voices and those Native and Indigenous communities, and bring more of those runners to these races, these big, huge races where it's hard to get into, and maybe even harder for those types of communities. So what Rising Hearts is doing for Western States is just amazing.
So, and that's a really important conversation to have, especially as the sport grows so much, is to make sure that people have a seat at the table here, or a spot on the trail, as you were. And so have you gotten feedback from anyone from these communities just yet? Or what's your hope kind of long term here?
Yeah, I haven't really gotten any feedback around it. I feel like I'm just getting started, and I feel like this next month there's going to be just a lot of push to just raise those voices even more. Wait, remind me the question again. Just my brain.
It's okay. I'll cut it. But long-term goals.
And then long-term, I would love to continue this partnership with Rising Hearts and with GU and all of the amazing things that they're doing, just to help, again, raise those voices and use my platform, which I hate using that word, but I guess I do have a platform on social media. And so I'd love to be able to put it towards good use versus just being another social, person.
So you've you do a lot talking about body positivity, which I want to hear more about from you. And I just want to know, like, what advice do you have for other women who maybe have some trepidation getting into this crazy, wonderful sport?
Yeah, I know that it feels like you don't belong, or you're not worthy of being at races like this, or your local 50 mile or 50K, but you absolutely do. It doesn't matter your body type or your age or your nationality or ability. I think everyone deserves the chance to take on these races, and everyone should believe in themselves to chase those dreams. If you do want to go after your first 50K or for your first 200 miler, I think everyone truly does have what it takes, even if it does take everything you've got.
I was thinking about a bunch of questions coming up here to spend some time with you, and there's one question I've never asked anyone before, but it's on the kind of lighthearted side, which is, you're an ultra runner when blank. Fill in the blank. You're an ultra runner when.
There's so many answers to that. I think whenever I hear, someone talking about like, oh, you got to drive, 50 miles to get to so-and-so for the weekend, or, oh, that's like a 30-mile drive, I'm thinking in my head, how could I run there if I wanted to? And I start planning it out in my head and connecting all the dots. I'm like, oh yeah, that's totally doable. It might take a day and a half, but we get there.
That couldn't be more true. Yes, you're an ultra runner when, like, yeah, I could run that.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, that's doable.
So let's hear about your training. How's your training going so far?
I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but so far it's going really well. I have an amazing coach, my boyfriend Scott Trayer, who's back home watching the dog right now, getting his training back in Phoenix. Classic heat training, which is so important. But it's going really well. We have a route that we do a couple times a week. It's called Mount Ord, and it's just this Forest Service road that goes 6.5 miles up, 6.5 miles down, 2,500 feet of climb. So it's very similar to stuff that you're running on here at Western States. And I confirmed that yesterday, just on the 50K training run and today's 18-mile run. I think for me, the biggest struggle or the biggest obstacle or challenge will be just pushing later on or keeping the momentum later on, because this is a very challenging course because of the climbs and especially because of the descents. And those descents, when you're a clumsy runner like me, I call myself a newborn giraffe on trails because my feet just don't know where they're supposed to be going and what they're supposed to be doing. So with that much descent, it's hard to keep a solid running form. But with a lot of practice, and we've been doing this since December, training for this race, and I'm feeling pretty confident, especially after yesterday's really tough training run when I get to Michigan Bluff and my team is like, you look 90% better than all of the other runners that we have seen so far. You look fresh. On the inside, I felt a little dead, but I guess if I looked okay, then that gave me some positivity.
I'll take it. Yeah, those are some good, kind words. Yeah. So on the physical part, it sounds like you're doing great. How are you preparing yourself mentally for Western States?
Yeah, mentally, I think it's very similar to, well, maybe. Yeah, it's pretty similar to how I've treated the rest of my 100-mile races. I wouldn't compare it to 200 milers because I feel like it's a whole different beast. But for that 100, it's just knowing. Now it's just knowing you only have to see one sunset, and the sunrise in that morning, the sunrise later. So just knowing the time that it's going to take, and then breaking it down into the aid station to aid station, just kind of milestones along the way. It's really about those small goals to make the big goal possible. And that's something that I've translated into a lot of the things that I go after in life, whether it's, my career or something else, some other ambition I want to take on. It's the same in an ultra marathon. You're just going aid station to aid station. It's very true at this race too.
Have you had to make changes to your training loads compared to other ultra events that you've done in the past?
Difference in training loads. I think the training load is it's about the same time on feet that I'm used to. However, that amount of time that I'm spending training is to build as much fitness as possible. So when I was training for, my last 200-mile race, it was time on feet, but I wasn't pushing it to build fitness. I was pushing it to build endurance, to be able to endure a longer day the next weekend or the next weekend, and also doing that while carrying a bunch of stuff. I think I averaged about 9 to 10 pounds on my back training for that. But for Western States, it's been more about building fitness with speed and with just finding that zone when you're going an uphill and going downhill, and being able to maintain that and not feel so fatigued or feel like I'm gonna die on the trail right there.
And how has working with a running coach helped you this time go?
So this is my first time working with a running coach. For all of my other ultra marathons, I've just kind of relied on, the resources of the internet or a book. And this is the first time where I've worked with a coach who not only did the race last year, but got 10th place. So that gave me some courage or not courage. That gave me some just positive motivation and peace of mind that if he knows this course and he did it well, then what he's telling me to do, I feel pretty confident in training so far.
And how about nutrition? Nutrition is like everyone has their own sort of kind of recipe for success when it comes to that. What works for you?
So I used to incorporate solid foods into my nutrition, but I've found with this training that liquid calories have been a game changer for me. I pretty much solely fuel on GU Roctane. And for the race, I plan on using, I think, the hibiscus one during the day. And then at midnight, I'm going to switch to the Summit Tea, which has some caffeine for a little boost at midnight or midnight 30 in the race. And then for just a little supplement, I snack on the chews, but that's really the only thing I'm chewing on. But liquids, when it's really, really hot out, just sits in my stomach way better than anything else.
I just mentioned running at nighttime, and I saw recently on your Instagram feed that you did a night run. What's that like for you? And is that something you do just for kicks on a normal year or what?
So I tried to get out of having to do that, but Scott was like, you really should do it just to, test your gear and test just like being out there and feeling alone in the dark, because that is a whole other mindset in these kinds of races. And so, yeah, I did, a 5-hour night run where the first hour was golden hour, but then the rest of it was in the dark, and it was on that same trail that we've been training on. So I was familiar with it. But I mean, it's a whole different terrain in the night than it is in the day, but it was great to just test gear and to, see all the different critters that you're not used to seeing during the daytime. I can't tell you how many weird things that just came out at night, but, it's funny when you're in the night and you hear any little like bush rustle, your mind just goes places. You're like, is that a cougar? Is that a deer? Is that a snake? I don't know. And in Phoenix, it very well could be a snake, but it's probably none of those things. It's probably just the wind. But
probably just the wind or a cougar. We don't know. Well, you're here, so it's probably just the wind. Yeah. So what are your expectations rolling into Western States?
I mean, my expectation is I just want to finish. But I think because I've had solid training and because I have a coach, I would like to finish strong. So I want to finish in a way that I don't feel like I need to go straight to the hospital. I don't need an IV. I want to fuel properly throughout the entire thing. I want to feel like recovery would go smoothly afterwards and not take too long or, have an injury pop up. So I think expectations are I just want to finish.
So running your course, whatever race it is, always has its advantages. And this 3-day training camp is unique and special. Lots of folks just look forward to it every year, and it's like a who's who of running comes out, and it's like this brethren. Like, you guys are the lucky ones who got tapped to be able to do this insane popular event. Can you talk about why running during this 3-day weekend is so important to you?
Oh my gosh. It's been so important for a lot of reasons. One, to see the course, because my only taste of it was last year when I crewed Scott. But being able to see it and run on it and connect with it, it just opened my eyes to what it truly will be like on race day. It was also important because I got to meet my team and we got to work together and kind of rehearse, stuff that might go on in race day. And I think it's also very important just to practice. Rehearsal and practice is so important for anything, and being able to be out here for that and to practice and to make it real, it solidifies all the training that you've done to give you that confidence that you can get it done on race day.
Yeah, you've put 50 miles in 2 days. Congratulations on that. Do you have any takeaways that you learned so far in these past 2 days?
I learned that devil's thumb, there's a reason why people say you give the finger to the thumb, because it was brutal. I mean, it's the kind of climb where your heels don't even touch the ground. It's that steep. But it was good to just kind of check those boxes and to just know what I got to do when I get home to maybe correct some things in training, or to plan ahead to know, okay, dip your hat in this stream because after that it's going to get really hot, especially after the fires. There's some sections where there's absolutely no shade because those trees are basically gone. So knowing where those little just secret spots are to get a little cooler to go the next to the next stretch, I think is very key.
You bring up a really important aspect to this race, which is, this Western States Trail has had one hell of a year with the mosquito fire, which was the second largest or largest wildfire in California last year. And then we had all those just epic atmospheric rivers that came through and just dumped snow and rain on the trail. And Craig Thornley has just been doing a magnificent job trying to get there and make the trail race ready. What people are scratching their heads, what is the trail like right now?
There are definitely sections where you can feel just the change that happened over the past year, especially with the trees that used to be probably so lush. I don't know because I haven't seen them before, but they're just black, or they're just sticks sticking out of the ground because there's nothing left to them. And in those areas, it's almost eerie to run through because, right before that it was very lush and you felt like you're in a jungle, and then you get to this area and it's desolate and the sun is right on you. So it's been very interesting to experience such drastic changes on the course, from going to snow to going to the heat to being by a river to being in what felt like a jungle. It's been very interesting.
One thing that I really been looking forward to talking to you in person about is I'm a huge super fan of your Instagram account. You have nearly 50,000 followers, which is really cool. Which really says something about, I think, who you are as a person, because it's silly, it's creative, but it's also brutally honest. And that's what I like about it so much, is that it's just so I guess it's refreshing that it's so genuine. And I appreciate that, but I just want to hear from you, what are your kind of goals when you approach your Instagram account, and kind of, what are you doing with it? It's just, it's all over the place, Callie, and I absolutely love it.
It is all over the place, and I have these internal conversations with myself all the time. I've worked in advertising for 13 years, branding brands for 13 years, being a copywriter, and so I know what goes into that. And the hardest thing to do is to create that brand identity for yourself. And so I've almost refused to, because it gives me more permission to be creative and to change it up whenever I want to. But when it's coming time to make a new video or make a new post, I'm thinking about who might be watching this and what I want them to take away. And I want them to take away just the authenticity, or the authenticness of trail running, and how wonderful of a community it is, and how open it is, and the conversations that you might have with someone on the shuttle bus going to the start line. Some of the things that I talked with the person who was sitting next to me on the shuttle bus to Robinson Flat was something that I would totally post about on Instagram. And I try and make sure that everything that I do post is authentic and transparent. And I don't want to I don't want to feel like a brand. I just want to feel like your running friend.
I like that. So one of those things that you do touch on from time to time, and one of the reasons why you're here is kind of that you're an outspoken person when it comes to body positivity, which I think is so damn important. With just our girls are being inundated with stuff and messaging, and what they should look like, and yada yada yada. You know better than I, of course, but can you tell me sort of what has been your approach to this, and kind of what's developed out of this passion of yours?
Yeah, it definitely started as a passion for me because in the beginning of social media, I loved it. I loved what it was doing, and connecting people. And with running the industry specifically, I felt like it started where like everyone felt like you had to be this certain way, you had to look this certain way to be a runner or be considered a runner. And that deterred me in the beginning from ever wanting to pursue that. But then social media became a thing, and people could post whatever and become, I don't know, social media influencers. And there became a rise in like showing just your highlights or showing the perfect shot, not showing the in-betweens, not showing what happened 5 minutes before, what's going to happen 10 minutes later. And so I'm trying to break that, or just show like, no, you can be a normal person and still post a normal photo, and you can share a normal story with someone and connect more truly and more authentically that way. And I think that is kind of what drives me to do what I do, is just to break this idea that you have to look a certain way or be perfect or live only the highlights to be a runner or to be a person, and just kind of be real and, I don't know, authentic.
Yeah. What's your message for young girls?
Oof. Young runners, or just young girls? And
I think young girls.
It's so hard because when you're a young girl, like, you're learning so much, and you're learning not just so much about one thing, but like everything. And you're also growing, and you're also figuring yourself out and figuring out who I am, or who my friend is, or what kind of friends should I be friends with. And I think for someone at that age, I would say just try and stay as close to you and what feels like you, and be as authentic and true to that, because it's so easy to get wrapped up in what you think is cool, or what you think is the right way to do something, but stay true to who you are and just follow that.
I have 3 girls in my family, so I love asking that question, because I want them to know that. I want their kids to know that, and their friends, and so on and so on. So thank you for sharing that part. So you and I talked last year, and it was a really awesome conversation. Really, got a good sense of who you are as a person and what your background is. And I really would urge you, if you have not heard that interview, to go back and listen to it, or listen to any of the interviews that Callie's done. You can Google her name, you're going to find it. She seems to be, just pleasantly popping up in all these places. But I wanted to ask you about that, about the road that you've been on just by being you. And as you kind of look back from where you are right now, and there's a lot more that is, I know, in store for us. But what's kind of your takeaway right now when you look back on your life in this kind of very short time frame?
Very short. Yeah, it's so funny to even think back a year ago, like when I was still trying to go after a 200 miler and still not really heard of, really. But I think my takeaway is to just keep being true to who I am, and not get caught up in maybe what's popular or what everyone else is doing. It's so easy to do, and not just running, but in any industry or in any facet of life. But I think the more true and just authentic you can be, the more people will gravitate towards that and realize more about themselves too. Or maybe it makes other people think about, oh, who really am I? Or oh, that's a very hard question to ask.
It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll just go a different direction. Yeah. So you moved from Chicago to Arizona, and which it's a total different lifestyle change. But when I started following you, I followed you for quite some time before we spoke. and like who's this Callie person? Like she just keeps doing all this cool shit, and it's so awesome to see. I want to talk about your adventure spirit, and so kind of what does that look like for you in terms of having that adventure spirit, and where do you want to go with it?
I think I get that from who I was as a kid. I was always playing outside. I was always pretending that I was going on an adventure in my backyard. So I'd, pack a bag with a snack or something and pretend like that I was building a little shack in the backyard that I was going to live in for the rest of my life. Or I would go and play in the park and pretend like a tree was like, I don't know, some obstacle I had to do. So even as a kid, I was always just trying to go on these little escapes or little adventures and just exploring. And I think that's become me, but like the adult version of me, going on trail runs or signing up for ultra marathons. And I like to then merge that with just seeing where how far can I push this envelope of mine. And I think the more that I continue to bridge this wonder for the outdoors and to explore with this curiosity to see how far my body can go or how much can I push it or what is my personal limit, I think I'm finding more and more about myself, and it's just been inspiring and fun, really, to just share this kind of journey or this adventure spirit with everyone else, to then inspire them to tap into that adventure spirit within yourself, because I think we all have it. It just might be, different levels for different people.
I think we'll leave it right there because I'll have more questions for you at the Expo at Western States in just a few short weeks. Oh my gosh. Ooh wee. Man, let's talk about that for a second. Like, what is that like to be just on the precipice of the start line?
It's too real. But I know, because I've done this weekend, that once I hop on that flight tomorrow back to Phoenix, there won't be another big weekend of training. It's just kind of maintaining, and then it'll be race weekend. So this is kind of like that summit, and now I'm going to start going downhill until it's literally time to go back up a couple more summits during the race.
Well, I am so proud of you, not only for being here and putting in the work every damn day and not giving up, but also to this larger mission, which is to advocate for women and their body image, and to be just a beacon for Indigenous people, and say, y'all need to come check this out because we're here and we want you to be here. And I'm like you look like me. Let's do this together. So I'm just so proud of you. So congratulations on everything you've done so far. I can't wait to see what you do next.
Oh, thank you so much.